Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Cricket Across America. I'm Aaman Patel, and yeah, we've had a little bit of a hiatus here. 1 week, but we're back with so much to talk about. Of course, I'm Aaman Patel, joined as always by our very own Nate Hayes. Nate, how you doing today, my man?
Doing great, and it was fun listening to you on commentary with our buddy Lenny down there in Dallas. What a great week.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal to be a part of that series with Andrew Leonard, Lenny, of course, who just does such a great job. He with the Cricket Club's crew there. It was really cool to see that venue host ODIs for the first time. It was the first time Great Prairie ever got to host ODIs, and it was just a really cool experience altogether, but definitely one that filled the storylines, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things to talk about coming out of that, just like we had coming out of the T20s the week before.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we get into everything that we're getting into, we want to hear from you. So please use the chat feature, share this, because we want to hear from as many people as possible. We'll get to your comments all throughout the show. Make sure you drop them in there because we're going to read them out. But whilst we're all still fresh in the crease, while we're all still kind of getting our innings together, let's get our eye in with a couple of big headlines we want to talk about. We want to start off with probably the most pressing bit of news really from the American cricket scene in quite some time. Stuart Law, he exits as the USA head coach. He was let go of and departed after the 10-wicket loss to Scotland in the ODI series. Quite an interesting turn of events, really, from Super 8 to sacked, if you will, was kind of the headlines that came out of it. Again, a lot of different stories. We don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of that, but just give me your reaction to that news when you first heard it.
I think it was a bit of a surprise, especially considering it was a 3-year term for the deal. But, this happens in sports. This happens in cricket. And we got to support the guys. We got to hopefully they'll recover from this and move forward with a bright future ahead.
Well, speaking of kind of a process and the bright futures, we wanted to take a look at Stuart Law and just what he did as a head coach and compare that to the last 3 full-time head coaches of the United States. You see it there on the screen. This is actually something that Andrew Leonard and I went looking through after the news, after that first Scotland match. And you can see there, Stuart Law has the best ODI record of the bunch. But you could also say only 9 ODIs. That's why it looks so much better compared to the extensive amount of matches, especially by Puru Desanayake and then J. Aaron Kumar. The T20s, he has the second most, but he played the most T20s. And you'd argue that he played it against the best competition. Remember, most of those games in a World Cup.
Right, and I would like to correct there. Pubudu's ODI record isn't just ODIs. It's
yes.
one-day games where USA was represented in a one-day match.
They featured in the Caribbean Super 50 alongside J. and Kumar. So there's a couple of Super 50 games that would have been a part of that record.
League 5, League 4, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a very extensive record from Pubudu, who was coach for a good period of time. But yeah, Stuart Law performed. The team performed under him. We saw some unprecedented accomplishments during his period. These things happen, like I said, but I think he did a good job. We've seen 3 good coaches there on the screen.
Yeah, again, it'll be interesting to see what the next step is and see if we can keep the winning ways going post Stuart Law. We haven't got an official word from USA Cricket of who would be the next head coach, but at the toss after the Scotland game, so in the next game they had against Nepal, we heard from Aaman Patel that Vincent Vinay Kumar has been taking over the reins as head coach, so maybe not on an official term, but as of right now, he's the one leading the group.
Yeah, so hopefully, we don't know if that's going to be a permanent thing, if it's an interim thing like we've seen in the past, but we'll see, and hopefully they'll have similar success.
Yeah, so wishing the USA team all the best and wishing Stuart Law all the best as he embarks on the next chapter of his, you hope to be an illustrious and long coaching career ahead of him. You imagine that with the results he put up in the USA and Home World Cup, that someone's going to snatch him up, and rightfully so.
Well, it only adds to a very good resume in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's not the last bit of thing. We're starting to see the ball better. Had a couple balls that we middled, but we want to get to a little bit more. Let's talk about a franchise league, and we'll start with the NPL. We're going to see some Americans in the NPL, and that's a super exciting thing. I'm really excited about the NPL starting November 30th to December 22nd. It's really an associate masterclass. We saw Gerard Erasmus is going to be there, the captain, of course, of the Namibia side, and you're seeing Brandon McCullum and all these Scottish individuals getting over there. George Mungie was scheduled to be there.
Yep.
And now we're seeing the Americans kind of get grouped up into that as well, which is really exciting.
And plenty of full member stars as well, and plenty of regional full member stars as well. Chadwick Walton is one of the players involved. But yeah, as far as Americans go, we see Andres House, Lahiro Malanta, Unmuk Chand, Mohamed Mohsen, and Joshua Trump. So far announced.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Two of them playing for the Janakpur Bolts.
Three of them. You got Josh Trump, you got Mohamed Mohsen, and Lahiro Malanta, all part of the Janakpur Bolts. Andres Kraus will go to the Pokahara Avengers. And then, of course, we have Unmuk Chand going to the Lumbini Lions. I'm really excited. I think being around the Nepal fans for now a month, I know that league is going to at least have the feel and the atmosphere of an unbelievable league. So I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be phenomenal. Just want to give a quick shout out to Smith Patel. Hello, he's watching. Thank you for tuning in. And for everyone tuning in, make sure you get your comments in there. We want to hear from you guys, and we'll react to it all throughout the show. But I'm excited to see any Americans elsewhere. The NPL seems like a really cool thing, and I'm excited to see what the league unfolds into.
And the NPL is Nepal Premier League.
Yep.
We know from talking to Lenny, we know from our own experiences.
Yeah.
Nepal fans are fantastic, so it's great to have our guys playing in front of such good fans, and hopefully, they can make themselves welcome, and I'm sure that the fans will be welcoming to them.
Yeah, I think if you start performing, I don't think that there's any Nepal fan that won't enjoy you, even if you're playing against their side. But the NPL is not the only place that is making some splash amongst Americans in franchise league cricket. The IPL just had its list of about 1,500 players that are in the IPL list for the auction. And there are 10 Americans featured on that list. Now, there's no confirmation on who those Americans are, so you have a lot of speculations, but 10 is a much higher number than we would have seen in previous years.
True.
Not saying all 10 are going to get auctioned off and get selected.
Right.
But you got 10 Americans. That's an exciting thing. Again, we don't know what 10 they are, but I think we could all throw out some names of what 10. If you guys have an idea, let us know in the chat. We want to know what you guys think would be the 10 names as well.
Well, and let's keep in mind that 3 of the major league franchises are owned by IPL teams, and another is assisted by an IPL team. So these are teams that, for branding reasons, it would make sense for them to reach into American players. And also we have very good players that I think can hack it. They proved that in the World Cup. They proved it in other leagues they've been in. Aman, I think the obvious one here would be Saurabh. We're trying to figure out who all these players would be and who would get picked out of the group. But we both think that Saurabh is going to get picked.
Yeah, I think he made a splash amongst Indian fans. You scroll through like Indian and IPL cricket Twitter and Instagram, and they all talk about Saurabh Netravalkar in a sneaky way. He just has this brand name about him. He's one of the best stories to come out of 2024. So wouldn't be surprised to see him there. I think Andres Kraus would be really interesting there. He's kind of batted all over the world in Premier Leagues. He was very good against South Africa in the World Cup, winning innings against Canada. He's really proven himself as the best domestic bat amongst the group, so he would be another really interesting player I think would be in there. Harmeet Singh has the India ties, of course, left arm, and then in major leagues, the Seattle Orcas are assisted by an IPL franchise, so there's that connection. Is there any names for you that stick out?
For me, it would be Sanjay Krishnamurti.
There you go.
Because I think it would be excellent for his, well, first of all, it would be great for his development. I don't know, these teams aren't going to care too much about how well they develop an American player.
Yeah.
But I think that if a team invests in him in the future, he could come back with some great returns.
Right.
But the maybe the one strike going against him is, or maybe this is a good thing, he's not affiliated with an IPL team in MLC.
Sure.
So I think that, so there's not a team that would go out there and get him just to bring him up through their system.
Right.
However, that opens him up to a lot of people. And that made me think about Saurabh also, who's affiliated with Washington Freedom, which is affiliated with Cricket New South Wales and not an IPL franchise.
Yep.
So this This is interesting. If Saurabh, do you think he'll go to a MLC affiliated team? Do you think maybe like the Mumbai Indians will take him or Super Kings or something? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because Smith Patel here says chatter is that from an Indian journalist that MI might be interested in Saurabh.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I would have seen him firsthand. Rohit Sharma would have seen him firsthand. So would Hardik Pandya, Suryakumar Yadav. So wouldn't be surprising that he would be in one of those franchises, especially the marquee big names, because it's just such a great story. I think that's the biggest thing. The one thing with any of these guys, you get picked, and I don't know how many games you get, just because there's such a depth of talent. And you have 4 overseas.
Right.
It's tough to make it in there, right? Ali Khan's been in the IPL a couple times and never even sniffed the 11.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, you haven't even mentioned, was part of the CPL this year, won an innings for the St. Lucia Kings. Punjab Kings kind of connection.
That's true.
That could be another avenue that gets there too. So there's a lot of individuals who've kind of made names for themselves. So I'm really intrigued about those 10 players.
And some of our best players are spinners, and it's difficult for an overseas spinner. We've seen Zampa overlooked several times in the IPL drafts. We've seen some good overseas spinners overlooked because there's so many domestic spinners.
Think about Mohammad Mohsin, who probably could be good enough to play there, and maybe maybe he is, and maybe the Super Kings are like, hey, he's producing so good in the U.S. Let's get him in here and let's continue to develop him.
Hassan Khan,
who had a great breakout season in Major League. Again, a lot of really good options. We'll keep track of that, and once we find out those 10 players, we're going to want to break it on here. We're going to want to talk about it and see which one has the best opportunity to get drafted and where they would get drafted.
Oh, we're going to talk about it a lot.
Well, I think it's safe to say we got our eye in. We're seeing the ball pretty well. So let's kind of get into the meat of what we're talking about tonight and this evening. And we appreciate you tuning in from wherever you're watching. If you're watching, make sure you jump into that chat. Let us know where you're watching from. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, we're here to read those, answer those, and communicate with you as much as you're here to listen and communicate with us. But let's go into it. Cricket World Cup League 2 took place. And again, I was down there in Dallas. The USA had a pretty decent tour. It got off to a really rocky start, especially with the 3 T20s they were coming off of. But then after the 10-wicket loss to Scotland, they've got on to the right foot. Let's take a look at what that schedule entailed. You see it there. Again, that initial 10-wicket loss to Scotland, where USA looked like they were nowhere. In the field, they looked like they were nowhere. They come back, they beat Nepal, and again, Nepal probably should have won. That was a really hard-fought win. Okay, you don't beat Scotland the second time, but that's the best associate ODI side in the world in terms of the rankings. And then they go back and finish 2024 internationally with a win. Nate, talk to me about what you saw on this tour and what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, and what are some positive signs for you.
Well, the very first game that you mentioned, USA looked down in the dumps the entire time, and I don't think you can approach a game against such a good side that way. Now, the shame for me is these were 4 at home. These were 4 in Texas, a facility we're very familiar with, a facility that's going to give you runs. You better bat there. We've thought for a while that USA's strength is their batting right now. In this current iteration of the team, there's no reason why it shouldn't be a strength at least. So I was a little bit disappointed to see him go 2-2. Now the 2 wins they did have very good wins, but Scotland handled them pretty easily. Yeah,
they did. I thought the big thing about the Nepal games was they just outlasted Nepal. They won those games in the moments. I thought that was the key. Where I really felt Nepal dominated, especially that second match right after the Scotland game. I felt Nepal probably could have put on 300-plus runs in that first innings, the way they started with Anil Shah and Asif Sheikh. But then Anil Shah just kind of threw his wicket away and to Jesse Singh, and then they just started, or Asif Sheikh threw his wicket away. Yeah. And then you could see the U.S. just start to kind of climb back in, and they won the moment of momentum. Because a couple balls later, Anil Shah hits a full toss-off and just conjugate straight down the throat of the fielder. And then wickets started tumbling, and they kept themselves in the game. So that was the good thing to see coming off of that Scotland match.
Yes.
That where you lose by 10 wickets, coming off a T20 series at home.
Where you lose 3.
Where you lose 3, especially the heartbreaker in number 2.
Right.
And the third one, you weren't in the contest at all. Mm-hmm. How do you respond? Can you win in the moments? And they proved they could win those moments.
And they were won against the team that they lost 3 against the week before in the T20s.
Yep.
We do feel like Nepal's best format is the T20.
Yep.
So I think they showed that in this series. They showed, I think, maybe one of the flaws of Nepal is everything in Nepal kind of turns into a short game.
Sure.
Even the 50 overs games, because it's difficult to score there. So you're not, if you're bowling first, if Nepal's bowling first, they're going to hold you to 150, 160. They can chase that down in 50 overs pretty easily without pressure at home.
Yeah.
Just like they can defend 210, they can defend 180 there, something like that, because they're so familiar. They have their fan support.
Right.
I think that because of that, they're not well prepared to play a 50 overs game on such a good batting wicket. I believe. I don't think that they're there yet to bat a 50 overs competitive game on a good batting surface.
Yeah, again, I think Nepal has to go back to that drawing board. We'll get into them a little bit later. Let's talk about the performances from the USA that matter, though, and that really got them back. Because, again, that tour really could have gone sour where you don't find a win at home. But there are some real key contributors. And we'll start off with Shahan Jahangir. And we came up with 3 words to describe every big performance. And this one, top order change. They make a move up top the order, moving Shahan Jahangir into the opening position. This is after Andres Kraus and Milind Kumar are both unavailable for us to tour due to injuries, is what we were told. So they are gone because of injuries. You have to find a way to shake up this order. You throw in Shahan Jahangir at the top of the order. In his first game there in ODI cricket, 104. I thought he threw away his wicket after he scored 100, but he played a phenomenal innings. And the big thing for me was because he was so fluent, he allowed Monang Patel to find rhythm in what was at that point a really tried and tested half century where he wasn't in flow, but he got to spend time in the middle because Shahan Jahangir played so well.
And I think going into that, when you're speculating who's going to fill in that top order spot, I think there were a lot of options. I think there were a lot of things discussed, a lot of players whose names came up. So it was interesting to see Shea was chosen for that role. We see him do that a lot in minor league cricket. When he came into the team initially, into the ODI squad, he was looked at as a top order batter, and he had to fill in that 6-7 role, and he did incredibly well. So this is a more comfortable spot for Shea, and we finally get to see him fill that role, and he comes through with a century. Yeah,
big century early on, and again, not only did he score runs for him, but I think his innings allowed Monang Patel to spend real time in the middle, under pressure. He got 5 innings, scored 11 runs.
Yeah.
Well, the next 3 innings in this ODI series, take a look at this. This is back amongst the runs for Monang Patel. Those are 3 words that describe his tour, because he comes up with 3 half centuries to follow that up. And again, for me, it was that first half century that he was gifted by Shahan Jahangir to spend a lot of time out there in the middle. And then after that, you saw him get back to his classic stroke making through the covers, through the V, playing proper Monang Patel cricket that when he's at his best is one of the best in the associate game.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's a very good batter. He showed it in the last 3 games of this homestand. A question was, you had lost 4 in a row across 2 formats coming into that second ODI game. He's the captain of the team. We had mentioned before that he had 5 innings. He had scored 11 runs across his previous 5 innings, and he came in and he's now got 3 straight half centuries. So he answered the call.
Yeah, he did. And I think the big thing about him was that when he finds runs, you can just see there's a little bit more calmness around the group because your captain scoring, it clears his mind when he's in the field. He's not worried about, man, I got to score some runs today. How can I tell, someone what to do when I can't even score a run? And I think for him, it cleared his mind. It allowed him to be a better captain. It allowed him to just go through the flow of the game without feeling that pressure.
Right, and you're doing this with a couple of youngsters added to the team. You want, as a captain, you want to stand up and you want to show them, the way. Yeah,
100%. I think the real standout player for me on this tour, who probably didn't get enough recognition for what he did with the bat. Might have not had the series with the ball we were expecting. I think he only took the 2 wickets. He was very economical. But with the bat, Harmeet Singh was quite fantastic from the left, and it was his innings late in games. The 57 and 59, they both come after brilliant run scoring early. The first 50 came off of a Shahan Jahangir 100, a Monang Patel 50, but they needed his 50 to cross the line. The second one came after a Monang Patel 50, a Sai Mukamala 75, and then he scores 50 to really set them over the edge. This is the real difference and what we haven't had in USA cricket for a very long time.
Right, and this is a role. This is an important role in the team. You got to set the table for that role to happen, and we see what happens when the table's set. Harmeet's very good in this role. He's going to score quickly. He's going to score at a good clip. We've talked about their lack of left-handed batters all the way down to him. You don't have a lefty in the side, so he has to fill that role as a lefty later on. That brings something extra. And we talked about playing down in Grand Prairie where you want to have a lot of lefties and righties, and we don't have one all the way down to his batting spot. So he came through when the table was set for him, and he filled his role perfectly, and he put games away.
He did. And speaking of left-handers, another guy who I don't think got enough credit for what he did, Shadley Venchkolkovic. Because, yes, it's not the Harmeet Singh, but what's in his blood, what's identified with him, never back down. There's no way that he's ever going to quit. He hits the winning runs against Nepal, but that's not the moment that I'll remember from Shadley Venchkolkovic. It's the moment when he walks in at number 7, the USA are 59 for 5.
Yeah.
And if he gets out, you probably are all out for 70 runs. And he comes in there and picks up his first half-century international cricket, puts together a 71-run partnership with Nash Kenjige. In tough conditions where the ball was doing a whole bunch, he was so good in that innings that they decided they're going to promote him to number 3. It didn't work, but it just speaks volumes about the character and just the type of player he is. He's a team man, and he never backs down. Shadley Venchkolkovic, to me, not someone who's going to get a lot of the praises, but someone who earned his spot and showed his character in that tour.
Right. All-rounder, fast bowling all-rounder. We know how good he is with the ball. We know his experience. We know, and we've said so many times, he's going to play to the occasion.
Yeah.
He's going to he's going to give you the intent that you need every single time. And if he has a bad game, a bad innings with the ball, he's going to come back the next game. It's not going to faze him. His experience is very valuable. His maturity is very valuable. And I want to recommend 1709. Follow them on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Follow 1709 Cricket on
Fantastic.
Instagram. 1709 has an interview with Shadley. I'd highly recommend that. I highly recommend following 1709, checking out all of their wonderful content about cricket across the USA.
Yeah, it's phenomenal what they do on that Instagram page. Make sure you check it out. That interview was very fun. The clips that they put out,
Good.
Especially him talking about how he never was considered one of the better cricketers, and I think he's probably being a little bit too modest for my liking. He's very, very good cricketer, and he's going to show for a very long time. Speaking of a very good cricketer who's shown up for a very long time, Saurabh Netravalkar. He is simply the best. There's no way around it. 4 for 47 in that final game and win the player of the match. He's had an incredible 2024. He took 8 wickets on this tour. And again, the big thing for me was he did it no matter what the occasion was. Didn't take a wicket in the first game. No one did. But he was the best bowler in that first game. He was the best bowler in every single game. And you could just tell there's distance between him and everybody else.
And to me, the thing that highlights him to me is growth. He's always learning something. A lot like Nash Kenjige, both of them. Saurabh, if you look at the way that he played 3 years ago versus the way that he plays now, the way he bowls now, very different intentions, I believe. He was always very economical. And he was always very miserly and intelligent with the way that he bowled. But I believe now he goes out there looking for wickets every time that the team needs them. He goes out there intent on getting wickets. He takes wickets. He takes them in various points of the game. That second win against Nepal, when he took the 3rd wicket, that was a big wicket. That was a massive wicket. But he had already bowled, I think, 5 overs by that point without wickets. And he's in the middle overs there. And Saurabh, you can place him any point in the game. I think the mark to me for a star bowler, for a non-role play bowler, is can you bowl anywhere and be effective? And I think that he really can. 15 wickets in his last 8 games. That's 1.875 per game. In his career, 88 wickets in 56 games. That's 1.6 per game. So we're seeing him improving even very good numbers already. But yeah, he finds the wickets in the big moments. To me, he's the absolute star.
Yeah, he is. And again, IPL could be calling his name very, very shortly. Speaking of stars, we have a young star who's finding his rhythm yet again. Sai Teja Mukamala had a quiet early start to this tour. You can't be shocked in saying that he probably gave up some really soft dismissals early.
Sure.
And he would tell you that he didn't play the cut shot necessarily well.
Right.
But this 75 runs, coupled that with the Monik Patel half century, very vital in winning that final game against Nepal. He was fantastic in that game, and it just shows you the talent this kid has and how good he's going to be for the USA for a very long time.
Yeah, we've already seen him in a record chase for USA his first century.
Yeah.
And he did it overseas conditions. But we're seeing, I think I was a little worried because, you don't want to go out there and score 8-10 runs every time. But it was great to see him finish the way that he did in the homestand.
Yeah, he was great. And speaking of young stars, Well, we got another one coming up. If you thought 20-year-old Saimo Kamala was young, just wait till you see 17-year-old Utkarsh Srivastava. This is Saimo Kamala. He found his rhythm with 75 runs. But again, you thought he was good? Let's take a look at Utkarsh Srivastava. 17-year-old, and the future has arrived. A 75-run partnership with Sanjay Krishnamurti. Brilliant as well. You can see they're the highest 6-wicket partnership, but also the half-century that he scored. It was beyond his years. It was unbelievable the way he scored it. The USA were dead and buried in that game against Scotland. He comes in there with Sanjay Krishnamurti. Give great credit to Sanjay, who was fantastic. They get in there. They build this partnership together. He scores a half-century, and you're within a Harmeet Singh masterclass of an innings of a win. Before that, you're not smelling victory.
Right.
An unbelievable innings, and he played selflessly. He wasn't playing to score a 50 and just lose the game. He was playing to win the game, him and Sanjay Krishnamurti, and it was fantastic to see.
And let's talk about that this wasn't a pressure-free situation for him coming into the team in the first place, because he's been in the team a little while, but getting chances now in the ODI innings as a batter, it's not pressure-free. You're coming into a team where there's always selection controversy.
Yeah.
You're 17 years old. We have more depth in batting across the country than we ever have. A lot of people are asking the questions, why hurry a youngster into the side? I think that he's very good at handling pressure. I think he's very versatile. We've seen that with the U19 squad. We've seen it with how he's played, locally, nationally, regionally. He's got a bright future ahead. And I mean, just a little more than a year ago, I was asking why rush him into minor league, why rush him into the batting order in minor league at such a young age,
Right.
and he showed his stuff right then.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He again well beyond his years, and I think no moment's too big. I heard about when MI New York came for practice matches this past summer. They played against the Morsel Raptors and a couple of other youth players, and Utkarsh Srivastava was part of it. And I was speaking to Rushil Lagarkar about how Utkarsh looked, and he said he was hitting everybody for boundaries. He was hitting it over cover, playing unbelievable strokes to everybody. Yeah. And I know he's 17, but I wouldn't be shocked if in the rookie round this year, he gets his name called.
I think in the U23 round, they got to take him in the U23 round this year. I think he's shown himself. Is he one of the 10 players that's listed himself for the IPL?
I don't know. I don't think he would have listed himself for the IPL
He's
yet.
surprised us every step of the way.
Look, his mentor, one of his mentors, Sanjay Stanley, has said he wants to see him in the IPL, and he thinks he will be in the IPL one day.
Sure.
And I think based on this, there's a real shout for that. I think Utkarsh knows probably not yet, but hey, he keeps proving us wrong. Why wouldn't he continue?
Well, he keeps proving himself right. I mean, we're on his side.
We're on his side. We know how good he is. By the way, Utkarsh, if you're watching, you left your USA jumper at the stadium. I picked it up. If you want it, $5, please. No, I'm joking. I'll give it to you for free.
Give it to you for free because it doesn't fit you.
Yeah, exactly. It actually might. I haven't put it on yet, so we might have to think about that. But before we jump into the next topic, let's jump into some of these comments here, jumping in. We appreciate you, Samarth Bartwai, for jumping in, and he said maybe MI might go for Nash. We didn't even mention Nash.
And we didn't mention Nash, that's true.
He was great. He had a 4-wicket haul. I didn't think he was bowling at his very best in the series. I think it got better as it went on.
He took 7 wickets in the series.
He did, and that speaks volumes about how good of a cricketer he is.
Right.
Because even at his best, he was still taking wickets right behind Sarab in the wicket column.
Yeah.
Maybe he's kind of been an electric spark plug. I think that for me, it'd be tough to get Nash into the IPL just because he's so valuable in Major League because he's just a real utility cricketer. Can give you a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you're the international, one of 4 internationals, you got to be the X factor kind of international.
And as a spinner too.
Yeah.
And typically in the IPL, they're going to go for the wrist spin over the left arm orthodox.
Yeah.
So,
and again, we would love to see Nash there. We love Nash as a cricketer. We just don't think the IPL is going to come knocking. But again, I would love to see Nash in the IPL.
Yeah, I mean, there's more teams than ever before in the IPL. So maybe there's a space for him. I would take him.
There you go. You got the Cricket Across America beginning stamp of approval. Someone also goes and says, why isn't USA considering Gurjanath Singh? That's a big question that people are asking. You've mentioned the left-handed combinations. No Stephen Taylor in the team, so you really don't bat until all the way down. He's coming off some really good years. He never really declined in ODI cricket. I think that's a question that's kind of behoofed.
It's a great question.
A lot of the American public, and we'll see if Gurjanath Singh ever gets that second opportunity, or if it's going to be more of they're moving in a youth direction. That to me is the one answer that maybe is happening, that they're trying to go into a younger direction. But I think we'll continue to see how that unfolds. I think Gurjit Singh is good enough to play for USA if you want.
And especially in one days. He was the best cricketer. He was the best guy on the team in 2023.
Yep.
I felt like he was a little bit hard done to not be put into the team to at least get the chance to play himself out.
Yeah.
He's a very good cricketer. Great in that middle order left-handed batting position, which I think they could kind of use right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of good depth. It depends on the direction they want to go. And like you said, if youth is the way to go, then we kind of support that too.
Yeah, we'll jump in here. Smith Patel, he's got a couple where he goes, Mo Sudden and Ehsan Adil will qualify after the Oman tour. I think that's in January. They haven't officially just shouted it up. I think that's as a Q1 tour, I reckon. So, again, it will be interesting to see. Jesse Singh didn't have the greatest of series. Is his spot up in jeopardy? Shadiv and Skalvik coming up on the tail end. Is his spot up in the air? Who does Mohsen come in for? We see Yasser Muhammad sitting on the bench, didn't play a single game in Texas. Does he find a way in over Nash, over Harmeet Singh?
Does Drysdale get more time?
Yeah, so I think those are all going to be interesting questions as they come available. Smith also says, American-born Agni Chopra, son of Bollywood producer Vindu Vinod Chopra, currently averages 108 in first-class cricket in India. Deserves a shout. He's Detroit-born. 100%.
He's been fantastic, actually. There's no question. He's had huge scores.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of individual. Brody Couch just took a hat trick in Shield cricket. Cameron Green's been so good for so long over there. Yeah. Cam Steele we've talked about. Ian Holland. There's more to name.
Kareem
Agor. And then when Carmine Leroux comes up and is eligible, I think he's now eligible.
I think this month, I believe, sometime in November, maybe. Don't quote me on it.
So I think by the end of 2024 he'll be available. So anything happening in 2025. So there you go. I think there's so much good talent. And I'm curious to see how the team shifts. You said it. We're as deep of a team that we've ever been, and it'd be exciting to see a couple of new faces in there just to give opportunities and see what we can form as that best 11.
I think the best thing, though, is that after that first really tough game against Scotland, where USA loses by 10 wickets, there's a bounce back. There's a recovery, and they go 2-1 from there. Yeah. I think we're talking a lot more about shuffling the team around, selection. I think we're talking a lot more about that if they don't do that, 100%. If they don't turn it around. And frankly, it's better to talk about that. It's better to talk about the 2-1 since.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the biggest thing. We have a comment in here from I Am Full. I think I got that right. Do you think USA will qualify for the ODI World Cup? Well, funny you ask. Robert, we have the stats and the table coming up. Pull that up for us here, because this is what the table looks like now after what we saw unfold in Texas. The USA are up top the table. Now, for those of you who are not quite familiar with how the Cricket World Cup League 2 structure is, or have heard it a million times from Andrew Leonard, but want to hear it one more time, explained not as well by me, I'll give it my best shot. The top 4 sides will go into the qualifier, the ODI qualifier, with the bottom 2 ranked full-member ODI nations that aren't hosting the World Cup to play in a qualifier to see who will slot in for those final, I believe, is it what, 3 slots, 2 slots?
Yeah, I believe so. But look at that beautiful table right there. Look at that. USA at the top of it. I mean, let's just take a minute here to ruminate on this thing. We could now. I really wish that we would have just 2 more points from that last homestand.
Yeah, well, so you see the table there. USA's top of the table. Canada in second. For me, my big thing, Nepal sitting in 7th. Now
that's scary.
It's scary because Oman are starting to rack up some wins over there on the tour that was happening basically concurrent with the tour down in Texas, and the UAE picked up a win. They had been kind of stuck at no points. So you're seeing the gap between Nepal, who have finished their international cricket in 2024, and Oman rise, and you're seeing UAE close the gap from the bottom. Now, why does that matter? Again, the top 4 has implications. The bottom 2 have implications. The bottom 2 teams at the end of and this ends in 2026 in December. The bottom 2 teams will lose their ODI status. So everything here has context. And there's real things to lose. You lose your ODI status, you lose major funding, and it sets you back years. Ask about PNG and what happened to them after the last cycle.
That's right, almost Nepal.
Yeah, almost Nepal.
They put it together, an incredible run at the end. One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in ODI cricket. what did they win, 12 in a row, or
Yeah.
11 out of 12, or 12 out of 13? It was ridiculous. And they're capable of that again. But you look at this table up and down. I mean, these are great teams. You see Oman close to the bottom. You see UAE close to the bottom. There's been times when they've looked like the best team in all of Cricket World Cup League 2 in the last cycle. There were times where they looked like some of the best teams. You know, Oman looked for a long period of time like they were always going to be one of the top two.
Yeah, 100%. So it's going to be really interesting how this all plays out. And even Canada being up top, a lot of people will credit that to the early start they had, but they've kind of fallen out of form since. So, will the North American top stay up there, or will it fade different ways? You're getting a shout out there in the chat. Daniel Beswick, our man Bez.
Yeah, Bez had to do that.
You and Mike
Hazeman.
Hazeman? All right, so someone screenshot this, clip it off with Nate, and then find Mike Hazeman and put it frame by frame. Tag us on Twitter, CrickFan USA, AP Sports News _.
And the shirt's also not tucked in. It's
there
not
you
tucked
go.
in.
So,
shirt.
it could be real close here.
Hazeman. Yeah, look, I'm sorry, Mike. I gotta apologize to Mike Hazeman right here. I gotta apologize to you. Didn't ask for any of this. So I'm apologizing. You're a lovely guy.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if someone can clip that up for us. Another question in here. Samarth Batawai continues. Thank you for watching the show all the way through. Who are USA considering as their new head coach position? Can we see Liam Plunkett or maybe Russ Theran coach USA? Again, all interesting options. We don't know if they're looking elsewhere. All we know right now, the person that is handling the troops at the moment, he's not named officially, but Vincent Vinay Kumar, that was given to us by Manik Patel from the toss, again, in USA Nepal, in that second ODI of the series, that he was the man leading as the head coaching role. Again, not officially the interim, not officially the full-time, but that is the man leading the troops right now. We'll see if he becomes the official interim, the official full-time, and which direction they go. I think it'd be cool to see a guy like Liam Plunkett coach the team, just to give...
Or a return of Darlow in the staff.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Kevin. He, kind of a stalwart of USA Cricket. Was surprised to see him not part of the staff to begin with. So it would be cool to see him back with the staff. Smith Patel makes a joke, Monty Desai will get the job, trust me. I think he means Monty Desai will get the job done, and I've just misinterpreted that, talking about Nepal getting back up top the table, which makes a lot more sense than what I was reading. But yeah, I think Nepal will be fine. I think Nepali cricket will be fine. Rohit Baldwin was a great captain. They just got to find some ways to win some close games.
Although now I'm kind of like thinking about Monty Desai as the coach. I
don't think that could hurt. I think Monty Desai is a bright cricket man, and that brain trust with him and Pupu Dasanaika is just, I think, phenomenal. And Nepal cricket's going to go far with that core.
Yeah, there's
the young
question.
Core they have.
They don't want to change that. They don't want to rock that boat over there.
He says not joking. Smith, I'm not sure what you're not joking about. The USA job, or is it Nepal getting back up the top? You tell me which one you're going with here, because
we're going to wait. We're waiting on Smith right now.
I was on the fact that he was leaning towards the Nepal side of things, but the not joking sends me back on the USA route. We might have to continue and then lead back for Smith to, maybe he's logged off. And again, please continue to drop your comments here in the chat. We love reading them. Smith means the USA. Leave your comments in the chat, because this actually informs us. Smith says he has a daughter in Atlanta. Didn't know that, actually, and interesting enough. So will Monty Desai end up the head coach of the USA? I don't think Nepal fans want that to happen.
How is that? My question is, how's Lenny going to take this news? And which way is he going to feel about it, right? He's got connections with both, he loves Nepal, USA. How's he going to feel about this?
I don't know. We might have to get Andrew Leonard on a call here, too. We have the capability to do that. We'll find a way to get Andrew Leonard. When he's not on the road traveling. You know what's crazy? He leaves 2 days ago from Texas. He has, I think, a 24 or 36-hour kind of flight.
Yeah.
He lands in Sharjah. And he does the first ODI between Afghanistan and Bangladesh today on 1 hour sleep.
I know, and he was great.
And he was fantastic. He led the whole thing off.
Did you see the 26th over there? There was a big wicket. He
did.
called it. It's almost like he summoned that to happen, because he described what they were doing. It happened almost immediately after he said it. It was like you couldn't have scripted the whole thing.
Well, when you've called probably over 1,500 international games, I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I also think bowlers make great commentators.
Yeah, and he's a fine leg spinner. If you haven't seen videos of him bowling leg spin, you could search up Takhludai Nepal on TikTok, and I'm sure it'll come up, because he was bowling with Kushal Bartel after one of the T20s. I was taking some catches, but he was showing off the leggies, and trust me, there was drift, dip, and turn away, the perfect leg spin ball, as he would tell you. All right, we spent enough time talking about Andrew Leonard. Again, we'll get to your comments in the chat if you have any more. We appreciate tuning in. This is one of our favorite parts about this. So if you have more, let us know. We're going to continue to check on here, but we're always keeping an eye down there because we want to move into the USA women's side of thing because we didn't get to finish their tour of Zimbabwe. They finished whilst we didn't have that show. We talked about the first couple of ODIs.
Yes.
But the big piece of news that happened since we were gone, the highest score in any ODI cricket for the United States on debut.
Yes.
Chetna Reddy Pagyadiala. How good was she? 136, and you see all the stats there. Century on debut. This again, we talked about the young 17-year-old Utkarsh Srivastava, young 16-year-old Chetna Reddy Pagyadiala, who has had everybody on the West Coast talking about her for a very long time.
Right.
I remember I was talking to Sindhu Sriharsha 2 years ago, and she said, "Watch out for her." And look at her as soon as she makes her debut in ODI cricket.
Absolutely, it's fantastic, and did it in USA's best chase in women's cricket. They chased 246, which is 246 is a good total in men's or women's cricket. We only saw that I think 3 or 4 times in all of Cricket World Cup League 2 men's. I think 4 times we saw a total that high chased down. In the last cycle. In all of the Cricket World Cup League 2, USA's men's team didn't chase more than 256 in ODI until they did so against Scotland in August of 2022. So the USA women's team has done it in just their 9th ever ODI, thanks to Chetna right here. This is phenomenal to have young players pulling you across such big obstacles across the line in such big moments like this. You would think, this was the 5th game of the best of 5 series, right? This was the very last game, and USA were 1-3 going into that. And you would think maybe the fatigue would set in. How many times have we seen USA do their poorest in their last game of a series? And they actually had their best game. They had their best performance in that very last game. I'm really impressed. I'm happy that they jumped over PNG in the rankings for women's ODI cricket into 15th place. They're just behind Zimbabwe, who they just finished 2-3 against. And also this was a young captain's first series. So 2-3 away in a first series against a full member team. This is pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's super exciting to see this young team go out there and perform. And again, this is the first time without Sindhu Sriharsha as a captain. Really, anyone on this team has never known life without Sindhu Sriharsha as the captain of the side.
That's right.
So it's a huge adjustment, and to see the team play so well was really special. To see Chetna Reddy Pagyadiala play well, Geetika Kodali was great, Disha Dhingra played beautifully, Aditi Sridhasana showed her ability with the spin. She's becoming more and more of the off spinner that can bat, and it's really exciting because she's a phenomenal bat. That's how she's kind of made her name.
Right. So the Stephen Taylor style.
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's exciting stuff to see. There is a comment down here from I Am Full, who's continuing to go on, is how good was that century from the USA women? He says, I think Pagyadiala, you got it right. And he says, and the USA women will qualify for the 2030 T20 World Cup. Well, it's a long way away, the 2030 T20 World Cup.
Let's see.
And again, there's a road to do it. You've got to continue to win games and win games against big teams. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what this women's team is able to do. It's a very young team, and they got a bright future ahead of them.
Oh boy, did they ever! It's very exciting stuff. And you did mention Sindhu's absence as the captain. She's still in the squad. She performed well. She scored 35, I think, in that win, the second win over Zimbabwe. So it's great to close the series out that way. Optimism for the future. Just good feelings.
Yeah, good vibes all around. Smith's still continuing with this Monte Desai thing in the chat.
He says he has no source. He's just going on a hunch.
Calculated hunch. He also said he can confirm Monte previously applied for the USA job when Law was appointed. Again, I don't know that. I hadn't heard that. So Smith Patel, again, always has these insider knowledges. And again, we'll see what comes of it. I think he's very happy in Nepal, Monte Desai. I think he's building a culture there. I would be shocked to see him leave.
Right.
Just because, again, he is so committed to that team. You can just tell there's a group. Yeah. I'm not saying he won't leave.
Right.
It would be very surprising to me to see him make that shift.
Yeah, it would be a surprise, but it's not unprecedented. We see a lot of coaches. Well, we've seen Pubadu bouncing around between USA, Nepal, Canada. I think that Smith might be just trying to rile up the Nepal fans. We're actually finding out that we don't have any Nepal fans watching us right now.
Well, to be fair, it is like 9 a.m. over there, so they're just starting to wake up in Kathmandu and get ready. And I'm sure the first thing they're going to do is throw on Cricket Across America. But if you are, we appreciate you guys for joining in. I Am Full has one more thing. How good Jay Shah will be for the women's game. That's yet to be seen.
Who knows?
We'll continue to see what Jay Shah does when he gets appointed as the ICC chairman, and what kind of things he wants to do for himself. I'm curious to see how that all plays out. You never know, right?
Never know.
Everyone's gonna say, oh, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. You never know until things do happen. But yeah, what a 2 weeks we've had in USA Cricket. Nate, anything else you wanna take off before we head out?
Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you tune in regularly, we appreciate it. If you don't, we try to do this every single Wednesday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. You got the world times right there.
Look, I'm keeping the time so we don't get past that hour mark.
There you go. Good job.
There you go. But yeah, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. You got 9 in the Central if you're in that Dallas area. And wherever you're watching, we do appreciate it. Please make sure you share, you like, you comment. We appreciate you guys comment. It makes it a lot of fun to interact with you guys. So we have our show prepared, but we also build in time to make sure we get to talk to you guys. And we're so happy when we do get to talk to you guys. This has been great. Nate, it's been good to be back here in North Carolina, finally back. And just been so happy to be a part of this and to see what the USA team has done in 2024. No more internationals for them. We'll have next week, we'll have a recap of everything that's happened internationally for the United States, both men and women's. Super excited about that. But first, before we head out, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you who have tuned in for every Cricket Across America, whether that's been through minor league, whether it's been through these USA series, and continue to join in and help us out. We appreciate you. We can't wait to see you again. And until then, have a good night and stay safe.